Okay. Right. So until now, the manual, it discusses only the professional paper. Even though one could always do a thesis, there's not that much information there. So I will discuss today this the option of a thesis, and also there's already written the option of a comprehensive exam. However, there hasn't been any guidelines because nobody has ever done the comprehensive exam. So those were options, but they were not really discussed. But I will talk about just the differences, and then I will talk about the comprehensive exam, because for the comprehensive exam, there's like some guidelines that were created for that. For the thesis, there's really no guidelines that are very specific. Maybe I should create that in the future, but the graduate college, they're the ones who might put together some guidelines. And again, the differences between the professional paper and thesis are it's not that much. It's just a matter of perception between the advisor of what is a thesis, right, compared to a professional paper. So basically something that is more research based. And also one of the differences is that you have to submit it with the graduate college, while the professional paper, you don't have to submit it. So, but we will talk about that. So what is the purpose of the professional paper? So it's like to try to solve a real world problem. And it might be something that you will do in your internship. So maybe you find an internship just with a company or a government, and you want to do a project for that. Maybe you want to do just a project because you're interested. Let's say that you want to do something related to maybe it's in your home country. Like if it was Puerto Rico, I would do a study of maybe gentrification in a place, or the redevelopment of an area, or something related to water quality or sustainability, whatever it might be, right? So there's different ways to come to the professional paper, but the professional paper is something that you can share as a type of portfolio with your future employer if you're interested in practice. So that means that it might be practical and applied, which is like the focus, and the length, it might be something shorter, like between 30 and 50 pages. That's what I have seen with like students' work. So now let's talk about the thesis. The thesis, it is done with the intent of you pursuing PhD education after you graduate. So it's more theoretically and scholarly, and it's going to be therefore longer. So we're talking about between like maybe 75 and 100 pages. These are just, again, general guidelines. So there's nothing set on stone that if it's not this many pages, that's a problem. Just, more or less, but that's just like a guidance. And then in terms of like the format, we already talked, like the professional paper is more for a client, while the thesis, it has particular components that you have to follow. So usually you will have a literature review. That's something that is not required in the professional paper, even though some students might have done that in the past. There's research questions, right? And you have to answer those research questions. There's a particular methodology, findings, and discussions. So think about it as something that is like for publication, right? And we might have some professional papers that have these parts, but not necessarily. But it's very important that for a thesis, you do have these parts, because ideally what you will do is that if you're interested in a PhD, is that you will submit your thesis to the committee that it is evaluating you. Usually you have to submit 2 pieces of writing, so it will be like this and something else. For example, when I went for a PhD program, I had a thesis, and it was like quite long, like 150 pages. And It had a lot of data collection, lots of interviews, and it's just a way to display that you can do research. And ideally, you will be able to transform that into a publication as well. Because of this, the thesis is going to be longer. So it's going to be about 1 year. So you should probably like start now if you're doing a thesis. While the professional paper is, I will say, the time frame is shorter. So it could be that you start last semester, but to be honest, the majority of the students, they start to think about it, or at least I hope they start to think about it now. So I had a student, I advised 2 students this last year. One of the students started in the summer to do it, and the other one started in the fall. But I met from other advisors, perhaps, that they started on December to just work on their project, but I will not recommend that. So I will recommend to actually start within 1 year as well. But then this is again where you have like already for whom is ideal. I think I'm gonna let me just keep going through this line and then I will talk about the comprehensive exam. The committee, and actually in all of them, is exactly the same. So it's 3 faculty members. 2 of the faculty members need to be from our department, and there's like 1 external faculty member. And I share with you already like a spreadsheet that if you can put your professional paper, you can put if you choose to do a professional paper, a thesis, or a comprehensive exam, and you can put in there like who are your 2 committee members as well as your external committee member. In that spreadsheet, there's also a tab that shows potential external members. So there's like people that usually have been part of our that know about our program, and they might help our students. So I can send that via email to people, but I'm sure that I have sent them many times, but I can always send it again, so you can again choose your faculty members. So for the professional paper, it doesn't have to be original research, right? So as we said, it's like applied. It could be secondary data. So it doesn't have to be something that you also collect. While in the thesis, usually there will be, you either collect like interviews, right? Or do like focus groups. You can also collect publicly available data, but then it will be something that is like more complex, right? So if you have like something from the census, right, you might combine that with other types of data that makes it very unique, and you can actually, because otherwise everybody has access to that and it would not be unique. So it's like often there's not only using publicly available data, but it might be other data that you either create yourself or you find other parties to have unique data. And part of the point of doing this is that you will do some theory building. And then we already have the audience, again, agency or the academic community. The exam dates are exactly the same for all of them. So you have to submit a request in ARCS. That's like a system that you have to say who is your committee. So you put the names of like the faculty advisors in there, including your external advisor. And then you have to notify them of the date of the exam. And then I pick the dates way in advance. So they are the Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, right after spring break. So this means that I do like a collective event in where I ask everybody to choose within those 3 dates on their committee to do their defenses, just because like that helps me to organize everything. Of course, students can do something on their own and organize their own thing. People have not done that. They just do it when I encourage them to do in that time in that period, but you are welcome to do it. What is very important is that this is kind of like the last time that you can do it, basically that weekend after, or the, I guess it's Wednesday to Friday, it's not quite the weekend. You can do it after spring break, and then students use a lot of the spring break to practice the presentation, do their final details and things like that. But you can always do it before, if that makes sense, on your own. If not, then you might have to graduate in the summer, which is like the reason that people do it right then. And we can actually look at the dates for that right now and save them in your schedule. I'll probably should do that for you guys. And then what the submission includes for the paper, there's going to be a final paper that you submit. I have shared that with you, some examples of the past. Now, something that we included is that you also have to submit a poster. And that Friday, there's like I think it's like 4 in where we just have presentations of posters. Last year it wasn't required, but like this year, or the faculty did require, so you will be required to do a poster. And then we already do is our oral defense. So for the thesis, it's exactly the same. You will do the document, the poster, and the oral defense. And then here's where the main difference is in terms of like the final submissions. In the this is like actually backwards. It's like the thesis you have to submit to the graduate college. I'm going to change this. And to Oak Trust. And Oak Trust is really voluntary, but it's the library, so you can submit it. And I encourage students to submit it to the library so other people can find your professional paper. But for the thesis, it necessarily has to be submitted to the graduate college. So that's like a main, you must do. And because this is true, you also have to download a template that they have for the thesis, which I will share with you. Some of the students that did the professional paper already used the template for the thesis. So they could have done a thesis if they wanted to. And some of them actually did research as well, but they just didn't end up submitting to the graduate college. Therefore, it doesn't count as a thesis. So kind of like the main difference is that you submit to the graduate college and it has a particular format that they ask. So now let's talk about the comprehensive exam. So for the comprehensive exam, it's going to be an exam, and there's an exam that is like multiple choice, and then it's going to be like a portfolio that I will show you in a minute, and also some essay questions. And you could take the exam either in the any semester. So you will have to register for it, right? So if you register for it, but you can register for next semester and do it that semester, or it could be also the fall. I encourage everybody to try to do it just in the spring semester. So on the last year, that's where you could do it. Oh, guess like somebody's like calling me. I guess I will call them later. Okay. So then the students, it's the same thing, like I said before, like there's like 3 faculty members, there's no original research, and it's like applying knowledge, and there's a reflection as well. And then there's it's not done for a client. neither sometimes the professional paper, of course, right? Not the academic audience, but it's kind of like an internal assessment. And it's like, again, exam-based and portfolio. Same thing with like the submission of the dates. Because like on the exam, you will write some essays, and those essays will be evaluated by your committee. So basically, you have your 3 committee members. They will also like, I will create the exam that will look like more like AICP, and then there will be like some essay questions that the professors will help me craft, and I will talk about that in a little bit. And you don't have to submit anywhere, neither to the Graduate College or to Oak Trust. Sorry, I cannot say those words. Okay, so now I will talk about the exam in more detail. So the purpose of like doing the exam is actually so you dedicate more time to work on like studying for the AICP exam. As you might know, the exam is offered, you register in October 1 to 30. You take the exam in November, November 1st to November 30th, right? That's the window of the exam. You can take the exam either online or in person, but you can choose your own date. It costs $305 for you to be able to do that. So you could register now in the fall. If you do pass the exam now in the fall, then that will mean that you can register for the spring semester to take the comprehensive exam. And basically, I would just give you a pass on that area. Because if you do pass the exam, obviously, you can pass our exam. So there's no reason to do that. The other thing is like, if you don't do that, then you should take the exam, just the exam that I create, right? And then if you fail that exam, you can always retake the exam. And the idea, to be honest, like I didn't put here how many times can you take the exam, but I imagine that you can take it until you pass, just because we want everybody to pass. But being the point, if you don't pass the exam, you are allowed to take the exam again. That's not an issue. And then, so as you know, the exam is like just like the AICP, 170 multiple questions, 3.45 hours, and you have to get 75% of the questions correct to be able to pass. And there's like 9 areas that you have to cover on different topics. And then the only thing that you need to do is write a short essay. So it's like 3 questions of about like, I don't know, I put 500 words, but now that I think about it, that might be a lot for students. I don't know. I might have to rethink this part. I'm sorry. Because that will mean that you will write, 1,500 words. That's probably too much. So I think that it may be more like 3 questions and 200 words or something like that. Yeah. That might be something, because I was paying too much attention, sorry. Okay, so you complete these like 3 essays, and they're like free flowing. So free flowing is like, you can just like write like you would in the GRE exam. So I should actually find out how much do you have to write in the GRE. Yeah, and then so you do free flowing, and then the committee will read your questions, right? So because this one is like less clear in the sense that the exam you either pass or not, right? You can always retake, but then the essays is something that, first of all, the faculty members will have to make the questions for you. So we will do those things together. and then we will evaluate those questions for you together. And then when you take these, you will, the exam, you will take it like in a room, right? So it will be like a room that you will have, like, you will be by yourself basically, or just I'll probably be in the room too. But basically it's like you're taking the exam like you would in a center, if that makes sense. And I haven't given too much thought about it. I think I put that it would have been with me, but there might be some way to figure out. And I apologize for not knowing that out of the bat. But it's like the whole way is like how we can, prevent that you don't cheat. And then it will not be a home take exam where you obviously, it will be more like the scenario that we had in class, in where I'm there, other students are doing it, are there as well. So until now, there might be some other thing that we could do, but I'm sorry that I haven't put like too much thought on that particular part. There might be something else we can do, but. So you see in this exam, there's two separate parts. There's the one that you just do the exam, and then the essays, and they could be scheduled in some different dates. So you could do your exam in one date, and then the other date do the essays. So you're not like overexhausted, because this will obviously be like altogether like about 7 hours potentially of you taking an exam. So it might be like a lot. So what are the questions? These are kind of like some examples of the possible questions. So let's say that is a question about, this comes from the Planning Accreditation Board. So the Planning Accreditation Board wants you to learn about justice, equity, diversity, and inclusion. That's like one of the things that you have to demonstrate. So one example of a question would be, describe a planning project or policy that has successfully promoted social equity, inclusion, and diversity in urban development. How did it address historical inequalities, and what lessons can planning apply to future initiatives? That's an example. But there's like other things like in sustainability, resilience, and climate. So basically, these are just examples of potential questions, and we can only ask you 3 questions. Assuming again, like I will look at the GRE and how long is that, but to this point, it seems like it would be about 600 words of free flowing. And then obviously the professors will evaluate your answers. And for this, you will actually have a meeting with them. So it will be like a meeting in where you come and you discuss what you answer in these questions. And then we have a portfolio submission, and these are some of the guidelines of the portfolio. So these are just things in where you demonstrate the different criteria of what you have learned in class. So for example, I guess this is references. Oh yeah, so here you can like choose, I think it's 10 planning techniques that you know, so, or you have learned about. For example, how to do a social vulnerability assessment, and then you will put, technique 1, I did a social vulnerability assessment. This is what I did and how I did it. Usually it will be something that you learn in class. So this is kind of like just for you to tell us, some of the techniques that you apply. You will have some project descriptions of things that you work on, especially it could be TTC or internship and all that. And these things is supposed to help you with your portfolio. And as a matter of fact, like parts of this portfolio, I assign as part of the class that I teach, which is the communications in planning. So I ask you about participatory techniques and how do you apply them. I do ask you about which projects have you worked in. So we do work on a portfolio in class. So in a way, it will be just like, this is like you doing a little bit extra, because then you will answer questions about the different things that you should be learning in the classroom, which is like marked by the planning accreditation board. So here, you know, for example, it's like describe how you have demonstrated your knowledge in planning law institutions, and that's one of the criteria. And then you write a little response. These are very little, right? So they're like 3 sentences or something like that. And it goes for each one of the things that you should be learning in class. But I think that this is a great assessment because it just has you think about all the things that you have learned in the classroom. And you know, as I said, in my class that is in communications in planning, you will do a similar portfolio, so you will have that part kind of down. I think that the most, and obviously in our other class with the practice for the exam, you will get a lot out of that to be able to pass the exam. So a lot of it is like being able to pass the exam again, which you probably now you or like, you know, you have done well and you pass with more than a 75. So it should not be that hard for you because it's a similar exam really. And then you could take it again if you fail. So the most important thing will be to be able to do this portfolio, which you would do part of a class, as I said, and to it will be like a mini version. So there's more that you have to do. And then the other thing is like the answering the essay. And again, this is like not that you should not be afraid of like doing this. Like we are here to help you, and the faculty is here to basically just make sure that you do well. So I think that you should not be afraid of like doing this either thing. So there's a lot of like anxiety that people get from the professional paper, the thesis, the comprehensive exam. We're here to help and to, again, just be able to be service of you for you to get what you want from the program, being that you want to do a PhD, therefore do a thesis, a professional paper that can be part of a portfolio, or something that can really distinguish you in the job market, which is having the AICP and also really help you with that portfolio part as well. I'm going to stop the recording now. Okay.